Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us at this masterclass today. We appreciate you. We, the team at BNET Learning, we appreciate you, and we are delighted to have you here today. BNET Learning is a global learning platform that is built upon a passion to see individuals and organizations grow and excel. At BNET Learning, we don't just train, we coach and we mentor. My name is Chineye Omuna, Director of Finance here at BNET Learning, and I am thrilled to be your host for this masterclass. This is an interesting one, this masterclass, because we're talking about CVs and resume. Someone once said to me that your CV is your identity in the human capital market. Today, we're going to talk about how we can put out the best identity, one that can help us leverage opportunities anywhere in the world. We have an amazing guest speaker that I'm sure you'll be excited to listen to, and there'll be a session for Q&A after her presentation. So please start prepping your questions. A few housekeeping rules as we proceed. All participants will remain muted throughout this masterclass. However, this is an interactive session. Please use the chat room for your comments and the Q&A box for your questions when you want to type them out. I'd like us to go into the chat room right now and just do a brief introduction. Tell us your name, tell us where you're joining us from, and any other information you'd like to share with us at this moment. So please go into the chat room, do a brief intro, tell us your name, and tell us where you're joining us from. Okay, while we keep the comments and the intros coming, I'll just go ahead and introduce our amazing guest speaker for this masterclass. Her name is Victoria Ibawa. Victoria Ibawa is an experienced human resource management professional with multi-sector professional experience. She's worked in the professional services industry with KPMG and Deloitte. She's worked in the fast-moving consumer goods, aka FMCGs. She's worked with Coca-Cola and Hellenic, and she's worked in the energy sector as well. She's certified with the Human Resource Certification Institute, USA. She's a global professional in human resource. She's also a senior professional in Human Resource International and a certified member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. Okay. Victoria holds an MBA from the Lagos Business School and has attended other professional development courses, including the International Business course from the prestigious IESE Business School in Spain. Victoria is also SHL certified and HostFed trained in organizational culture consulting. So she's a seasoned consultant. With a robust professional career as a consultant as well as a practitioner, Victoria has been extensively involved in strategic people management initiatives. And over the years, over the course of her career, she has developed skills and gained multifaceted experience spanning key areas of policy design and optimization, change management areas, executive level business partnering, and organizational development. Victoria leads a nonprofit platform for career and business individuals called Inspired for Impact, where members are inspired to be the best versions of themselves and to make an enduring impact in their spheres of influence and in the society. In her spare time, Victoria facilitates capacity building and strategy sessions and actively supports initiatives that are aimed at the professional development of young persons. So you can see that Victoria is a seasoned consultant and as well as a practitioner. Everyone, let's give a virtual clap as we welcome Victoria Ibawa. You can take it from here, Victoria.
Okay, thank you very much, Chineye. Really, really pleased to be here. Please do confirm that you can hear me still.
Yes, we can hear you, Victoria.
Okay, great. And just a quick welcome to everybody on the call. I want to say that the next hour is going to be as interactive as it can get. And maybe just a quick thank you to BNET Learning. Thanks for having me on this call. I'd like to go quickly into what we're here for. And so I'll share my screen and we'll take it from there. Just confirm to me as soon as you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay, the heart of winning resumes, and really, I'm not going to go into this presentation with any definition or any template. So let me start by saying that this is not going to be one silver bullet or a presentation of just use this template and you're good to go. So it's going to be just conversational. I'm going to be speaking to you from the lens of someone who recruits. So I'm going to be talking to you as a recruiter, what I would look out for when I see your CV. And then some of the things that we're going to be speaking to this today is would also cover things that go beyond your CV. So what I want to say is please be very open-minded. It's going to go beyond just a CV, but the resume at the heart of the conversation that we will be going through. And like you can see on the screen, and as was presented earlier on, my name is Victoria Ibawa. You already heard my profile being read. So a quick question for you, but before I go into that question, so when I got this topic, a few things, I recall many years ago, and when I say many years ago, it's been quite a while. So my first interview into KPMG Professional Services, I'd done NYSC, I was working in the bank at the time, and then I'd done my KPMG test, obviously, before NYSC, and I was told, oh, you passed the test, but go do NYSC, which is the one-year compulsory national service in Nigeria. And so after then, I got a bank job. I was working in the bank, and then I got a call from KPMG to come go through the interview process this time around. And so during that interview, what I will share with you now, it's not really my experience, but I recall having a conversation with the HR personnel who attended to me as my first, the first contact I had with KPMG after the interview, after the test. And this was a while back. So you can imagine that I'd done NYC and also gone ahead and to start working in the bank. And so when we talked, so some things that happened had been delayed, and then in fact delayed for a while, but for very, very good reasons. It wasn't any fault of theirs. But then all over the time when I sat, there was a constant communication with me, explaining to me, what was happening. And by the time we spoke, obviously it was already launched, it was the launch hour already, and then we spoke. So my interview went over lunch. And after our conversation, she shared with me an experience that I thought would be relevant for me to share with you. She told me of someone who had come for an interview. That's the HR lady who was speaking with me. And because some of the things she had asked me at that point was, why do I want to join KPMG? Where do I see myself in another 5-10 years? What were my goals? What, things you would typically ask a new hire and someone who's shown interest in joining your organization. So I shared what I had to say, what I prepared to say, and the things I was really, just shared who I was. And then she gave me an example of someone who had come into gone through the test process, very exceptional candidates, started the interview process. And at the time he met with HR, and she shared that experience with me because she did tell me that was one of the reasons why the interview process was switched, such that you meet HR first. So some persons would say you meet the technical guys first, or the people who you're going to be working directly with, and then just before onboarding, you meet HR. But so this experience was that when they asked the guy, what do he'd done the interviews, it was good, and they asked him, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? The answer he gave, it would have been a complete waste of his 5-10 years if he had given him the job. And there was a further probe, there was a continuous probe, and the guy said, this is what I want to do. And so because he was talking with professional HR persons, they advised him and they said, KPMG is not for you. Go build your dreams somewhere else. And so I have a few questions for you this morning. I also had another experience, even while I joined KPMG and I became the business partner for the audit division, having to go through a lot of recruitment. I also had experiences like that where fantastic candidates are not given the job. Some of these things you can't tell from the point of CV, especially when it's the entry-level persons. And so for some individuals, you have to take them through, sort of coach them through the things they should look out for, in themselves and also in the organization that they're looking to work with. And so that's why I'm saying that for this session, I will try as much as possible to make it as broad as possible without losing the essence of the topic that we're dealing with at this session. And so just a few questions I want to ask. And the first question I have is, what's your dream job? And please don't, let me just say this. This is not for you to answer. I'm not asking for answers at this time, but just something for you to ponder on. When you put up your CV, when you prepare your resume and you want to, you're looking out and you're saying, okay, this organization, I want to work here. Have you asked yourself, where would I really want to work? And then another question is, so if you're that candidate who is applying, who's putting together the resumes, who's trying to, get one very fantastic job. So the next question I ask of you is this: what do you think you've got that makes you stand out? And then maybe another question is, are you future ready? And so these questions are just reflective. They're not things for you to, and if you got your notes there, I'd say take them down, because at the end of this session, there are things that you would have picked from this session, and there are things that you will go back, I'm going to ask yourself questions around, okay, so how do I now define what my dream job is? What are the things that I've got that if I put on my resume, they make me stand out? And really, what I have on my resume today, is it going to be relevant for tomorrow? Will it be relevant in the next 5-10 years? And so everybody on this call, I'm not sure there's a baby that was born just this year. So we all went through 2020, and then a lot of predictions that had happened in the past around the future of work. So many things were fast forwarded last year, and then even this year. So organizations are in that space where we're currently reviewing what our flexi policies are, what our work-life balance policies are. We are beginning to think again to say, does this work for our people? And does this even work for the organization? And so my question for everybody on this call is, are you future ready? Do you even understand the definition of the future in the space that you want to work? And my final question is, so having considered these questions, and then if you've really, really gone through the questions and you've thought to yourself, asked yourself certain questions, it's time for you to now begin to, so how do I close the gaps? Do I even know what a dream job means for me? Do I have what it takes, the kind of jobs I desire? Because you don't put together your resume for nothing. It means that you want a job. It's either something new or you want to grow in the organization where you currently work. And so if you're going to be putting that together and you've asked yourself questions about what makes me stand out? Why should I be considered? And then even if I'm considered today, do I have what it takes to be considered tomorrow? Do I have what it takes to go with the organization where the organization is going to? If I'm given an opportunity to put together my profile or my resume alongside other candidates that will join the organization in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years, what do I have on that CV or on that resume that would make me stand out? And do I even know where my organization is going? So if I'm somebody that's in an organization and I want to move up, or even if I'm somebody who's out and I'm looking into an organization, I know the industry. Do I know what's the state of change in that industry that I want to work in? Do I know what the what the trends are, and how do those trends impact me as a potential employee? And then the final question is, how do you intend to close this gap? So these are not, our focus areas, but I thought it would be good to give that background, and so that you can go back after this session to look at these questions. I'm going to put some things in place as you plan to get that dream job. So as an outline, we're just going to be taking 3 key things, and my first theme here is setting your stage. I'll let you know what I meant by setting your stage. And then at the heart of what we're discussing today is the winning resume. And then the final thing is I'll share with you some essential tips. So maybe a good point to say that this presentation of this session is not going to be all encompassing, because obviously there are a lot more things that we can't say within the time that we have. And even if we have a 1-week session, there's still going to be things that I won't say here. But I can assure you that you will get relevant nuggets that would help you as you go from here and putting together your resume, and beyond your resume, your career profile. And so in terms of setting your stage, this is the first thing I want to take here. If you imagine yourself as in the midst of a lot of people, so let's imagine a beauty contest, the Miss World, Miss Universal, whatever it is that you can imagine. And you see a lot of ladies on the stage. There's always something that sets apart some persons. And I wanted to use that example because, it's something that we can all relate to. So you see several ladies on the stage, and as you look at them, you can tell easily those that are owning the stage. There's some of them you will say, oh, this lady has presence. By the time they speak, so even before they speak, something already speaks to you, you know, regarding one or two of them. So you can just tell. There's some people you can tell and say, okay, this lady is already confident. And then because the confidence is already there, the way the person will answer the question would also, you know, it will flow through when you hear the person speak. And so the person winning might not necessarily be the most intelligent. The person who wins might not necessarily be the prettiest lady on stage, but it might just be that person who has understood the stage and what comes with that platform. And so why I started with this is that before you build your resume, it means that you've got something you want to put on your resume. And so that's something. And my question is, what do you have on that stage? And so when you stand on that stage as one of the contestants, on that stage, questions will be asked. On that stage, you know, you're going to go through a lot of exercises. The judges are going to be watching every step you take, every part of your body language. People are scrutinizing and they're checking on that stage. And so two key things I want to say under setting your stage is the first thing is be intentional. And then think sales. So I'm going to be intentional. Also, still under setting your stage. And so in fact in terms of you as an individual amongst those contestants on the stage, and maybe I should say here that for every time as a recruiter that you post a job opening, you will get thousands and thousands of applicants. And so many times as recruiters, I go on LinkedIn, I hear a lot of people say a lot of things about recruiters. You know, I hear a lot of comments around recruiters don't respond. You know, you didn't tell me if I didn't make it. And back in the early years of my career as a consultant, when we recruit for clients, you know, you're recruiting for a director role, and then you see a new hire who's not even completed NYSC applying for those roles. So sometimes you can imagine what the recruiters are going through. But what do you have on your stage or on that platform that you have, on the resume, on your profile, that if I see your profile at the first glance, what's that thing that will make me pick you out of the lot and say, okay, this person stands out? And so if you look at your screen, you see a lot of balls, and then just one ball in the midst of everything is standing out. So my question is, do you have that on your stage? Are you standing out in that? So my first thing about being intentional, so I'm going to try as much as possible to take this from the perspective of new, you know, entry-level grads trying to get jobs, and also experienced professionals who are trying to get jobs in outside where they currently work, or who are in between jobs, or even individuals who are currently in good places of work that they would like to grow their careers, and they're thinking, what's the next step for me? The first thing I have here is this: you need to be intentional. And so I'm being careful to really go through this so that I can take everything I have on my slide. And under this, I've just put 3 profiles. The first thing is profile the organization, profile the company. So you've seen a job posting, and then you don't just send your regular resume. And so let me quickly clear this bit. Many times you get candidates ask you, is it fine for me to have different resumes for different job openings? Excuse me. And I say yes, but at the same time, I say no. So what I mean is this: your resume, your basic profile remains the same, but you need to tailor your profile to both the organization and the role. But you can't do that if you haven't profiled the company. And so how do you profile the company? What are the ideals of this company? What sort of environment are they in? You know, what's their culture? And these things are not hard to get. They have a website. There are people who are working there. If you know one person who knows one person who knows another person, then somehow you are going to get 1 or 2 information. And so you know this is this sort of company. And so that is even when there's a job opening already. But if I'm targeting an organization, perhaps, and maybe an organization I'm targeting the World Bank or United Nations, if I say that I want to work there, and this is my 5th year in my career, you know, I'm not going to wait until I get an opening to profile that organization. I'm going to go to their website, go to their careers page, and check what are the things that really you will see across every job opening. What are the things they look out for? And so if I'm currently on a 3-year career, if I'm already on my 3rd year, and I'm obviously going to be targeting roles of 5 years and above, I'm going to be looking for those things in those 2 years, the gaps that I can close. And I can only do those things when I profile the company, profile the industry. And some of the things I said around, do you know what's happening in the industry? Do you know what the trends are? Those are the things that you profile, because you can only put on your resume the things that you know and the things that you have. And I also talked about profiling the role. What exactly is the role for? So if I take myself as an example, I've worked through different aspects of HR. And so if you have a role for me in learning, I can function well there. If you have a role for me in consulting, I can function well there. If you have a role for me in employee relations, I can do that. So practically almost every part of HR that I've worked in. And so my question will be, if I know the role that I'm applying for, it helps me to put together a profile or a resume that addresses the needs of that role. And so maybe just to explain is this, I'm not saying distort your resume. What I'm saying is, if I have achievements that I have had in the course of my career, I'm not going to be, because I'm so interested in the achievements I had in learning, I'm not going to now project my learning achievements above the achievements in the area of the role. And so that's what I mean by profile the role. It's not enough to know what the company stands for or what the company wants. It's also good to know what exactly does this role entail. And then the final thing is, when you profile the company, you profile the role, then you can build your profile. And so again, I'm taking this from the perspective of you're already applying into roles, and also you are building your profile to apply to roles. So if you're already applying into roles, this is where your resume comes in to say, okay, how do I build my resume such that if a recruiter picks this resume and the recruiter goes through, the key things they're looking for, it's quick. You know, on your very first page, they're seeing it either on your statement, on your profile statement, you know, that very short statement you have, that very punchy and straight to the point statement you have, you know, or they're seeing it in the bullet points of the roles I have held. You know, so, but not that they have to be searching through to see that you have things that meet. And I will say this, many times, we do not recruit the very best person for the role. There are other things we look at for. And beyond even the things we look at for, the things we don't see. Because if you haven't designed or prepared your resume in a way that, you know, as a recruiter, if I pick your resume, I can say, these are my top 3 points. I'm going to take you through those things that I want to see as a recruiter on your resume. If I don't do these things, there's no way I'm going to build my profile. And I have here nearly never kills a bird. So you can't just be like, oh, I did all this, but I wasn't taking. You have to be intentional about what you want to do and about putting the right things. And the other thing I said here is think sales. You are always selling. And please pardon me for giving this background. I think it's important that we have this background before we go into, you know, resumes themselves, that, like I know many of us want to hear. And so when I say think sales, as a salesperson, the first thing you ask yourself is, why am I into this business? You know, why am I doing this? And the first thing is, so for me as a salesperson, I want to make money, you know, I want to, you know, get my brand out there. Sometimes if you start sales, it might not necessarily be in terms of profit, it might just be, let the word go out there that this is what I do, you know, just build your brand. And so as a career person, what do you want? What are your areas of passion? What do you think is your purpose? You know, those things that you feel that you can always do anytime and it aligns with you, what your career inclinations, you know, and then what are your desires? What sort of jobs do you want to do? What sort of industries do you want to work in? And so when you ask those sort of questions, that's what a salesperson thinks first. Because as much as a salesperson wants to meet the need of the customers, it's also what's in need for me. And then the other question is, what are your strengths? So I think that it's irrelevant. Again, I'm stressing the relevance of giving this background. And so as a salesperson, if I say I want to make money, what do I have? Can I communicate well? What skills have I built? Do I even have the right product? You know, do I have what it takes? If I have the presence, what networks do I have? What experience? Have I worked in a field that I'm going to sell in? So do I know the language that they speak? What are your strengths as an individual? And so my question is, as a salesperson, look at your career like someone who's selling, because the truth is you are always selling. Every time you put your resume together, you're selling yourself. Every time you walk in through the door to an interview, or to face an interview panel, or even if it's a one-on-one interview, you're selling yourself. The first day you resume work, assuming you get the job, you're selling yourself. Every time you sit at a meeting in the office and you sit at that table where conversations are being held, you're selling yourself. So for every opportunity you have, even every time you go, every time you take a taxi, every time you speak in your maybe in your residence association, whatever it is, you're selling yourself. For every conversation you have, it's a pitch. And my final question is this: so you know what you want, you know what your strengths are, but the question is, do you know what the market needs? And so as a salesperson, even if you have everything, I have the right profile, I have the right skills, my strengths are fantastic, but am I thinking sales? Does the market need what I have now? And so I thought it was necessary to start with this, because you can build a fantastic resume that has no relevance to the future. You can build a fantastic resume that has no relevance to what's currently happening, post-COVID. Not even post-COVID, because COVID is still very much here. You know what I mean? So it's just to give this background that for everything you do, the entire breadth of your career and the association you keep, the network that you build, you're selling yourself, everything. And if you have that consciousness of that, just like a salesperson, if I go out there, I know that even if this person doesn't buy from me today, the person is likely going to buy tomorrow. So you want to ensure that you build the right profile. So into winning resume, and under here, I have 3 key things: the power of first impressions, the winning resume, the winning cover letter. I thought it's important to put that. And also here, I'll talk about the invisible resume. So that's resume that you don't readily see. I know that I can see that comments are coming through. I'll leave that to Chinaya. Chinaya, you will let me know later if the comments and questions. We'll take that at the end of the presentation. So for the first topic on there, so this is the meat of what we're dealing with today. And I believe that what we've discussed about being intentional and then thinking sales as a career person already gave you a good background to the core that we're going to be discussing now. And so in talking about the power of first impressions, my comment here is putting your best foot forward. And so I have a few questions I'll ask here. First impressions last. Is this true or not? When you hear this, is this true or not? The answer is it is true. But there's another comment here also. You never get a chance to change a bad first impression, true or not? So it depends on the circumstance. So for this presentation, I have put that it's false because you could get a chance. But if it's an interview or a CV or a resume that you submitted, you might not get a chance in a long while. And so I didn't get any I didn't get any sign to put, I didn't want to put both of them beside, but in overall it's false. But the difference is that the truth is it will take a while. That is if an opportunity ever happens again. And so what it means is you always want to put your best foot forward for your resume. And then the comment here is it's hard and it takes time to change a bad first impression. That's true, but that's even if you have the opportunity. And so for everything that defines you, your resume, so Victoria Ibar's resume is Victoria Ibar. Before employers or recruiters see me as an individual, beyond what they see on LinkedIn, beyond whatever they see on social media, they see my CV, they see my profile. This is who I want to be seen as. And so everything that describes me, the best possible thing that you can use to describe me should be on my resume. And so maybe I'll give I want to share a real life example now, which just happened in the course of the week. So I did send my profile to the organizers some days ago. I sent my profile ahead. And on that profile, because I wanted it brief, I have a brief profile, I just worked on it and then I sent. And then just yesterday, I thought to myself, I'm going to be taking this topic and my certifications, my second degree, and then the courses I have were not on that profile. And I said that wasn't going to do my profile justice because listeners, like I told the organizers, listeners want to hear what you have before they want to listen to you. And that's the same thing about your resume. So it should speak to everything about you as much as possible. So the next question, what do recruiters want to see on your CV or on your resume. So when you want to put together your resume, what are the things they want to see? And these are just top things that I've put together. I do not, it's not to say that they are all exhaustive, but I should see, if I see your basic profile, and again, let me say this, I'm not going to be sharing, this is the template. If you go on Google, you go on resume creators, you would see a lot of templates. I'm not going to say this is the standard template, depending on what you need, but I'm going to tell you things that we want to see and things that you should consider. So the very first key thing is your contact must be up to date. If I see a fantastic CV and I'm thinking, oh, I need to get in touch with this person, there's no email, there's no phone number. In fact, your email is even more important, because what if it's going to be an international role? And then if you have your email, then when you say up to date and current, it has to be something that is relevant, something they can reach you on. And I'm saying this, some of you might be on this call and think, how will that happen? I've had situations where we're recruiting and then somebody puts a number that is no longer being used. So because you got a job opening, someone shared with you a job opening, you just pick your CV that you've created 3 years ago, you dust it, maybe add 1 or 2 things, and you send. What it tells me as a recruiter is that if you do not pay attention to details on your resume, it means you're not going to pay attention to details if I give you the job, no matter how intelligent you might be. And let me tell you what, for recruiting, there's something I always say that I say to people who work with me, and for some reasons I haven't put it on this profile, but I'll say it here. I will always recruit for character and take my time to train you for skills. Obviously, there's certain things that will be relevant. There's certain things that will be relevant in terms of skills and experience, depending on what I'm bringing you for. But if I can tell from your CV or from your resume that some key things regarding attention to details, integrity, authenticity, I can't pick those from your profile, then I have a concern, no matter how intelligent or no matter how well you nailed the interview. And so those things are things that recruiters look out for. And so the other thing is your personal statement. Your personal statement, I'm going to be talking a little about what your cover letter, your personal statement should address. So I'm not going to say so much here, but I'm going to take that in the next slide or the one after that. But your personal statement should be punchy, just very straightforward. But if I look at your personal statement, it should tell me everything about you in a few words. And so who are you? Why did you apply to the role? And why us? Those are the kind of things that I want to see in your personal statement. So no matter how short, how brief it is, have something that is not just bullet points. And then another thing I want to see on your CV is academic qualifications. And so as much as the different clients, the different focus areas in different countries, and that's why you won't see on my screen things around gender, things around age, depending on the climate and the environment where you're applying to. The things things around data privacy is very strong now, so you need to be careful, depending on where you're applying to. That's the thing about being intentional. I talked about profiling the company, profiling the role, and then if you are profiling the company, obviously you're going to be profiling the region and where you are applying to. But if you're applying for a role where they're saying, okay, this is an entry-level role and you cannot be more than this age at this time, and then you apply for that role, you make a first class. You had a first class and was saying that you minimum of a 2-1 or a first class to apply for the role. And then you apply for the role. I do not see your age. Let me tell you what, I might take the extra pain to call you, especially if you made a first class. If I've looked at everybody there, and I'm being truthful, so this is me talking as a truthful and very open recruiter. So I might take the pain to call you, but then it depends on a number of things. How many profiles did I receive? Am I even the one sorting? Sometimes these things are not even sorted manually, And so when you miss out some critical information, you already missed out on any opportunity. And so if I'm going to be considering you for a certain level or a sort of job, I want to check, do you have the academic qualification? Do you have what it takes to be able to perform in that role? And this differs. If you know that you're going into an industry where certifications are important, part of profiling the company and building your profile after profiling the company and the role is to build the profile that will meet that organization. And so you give yourself a plan and say, okay, in the next 3 years, in the next 2 years. And then if you feel you're ready, how do you put together that profile? Academic qualification, whether it's certification, whether it's your degree, postgraduate degree, whatever it is. Sometimes maybe even the learnings you've gone through that are relevant to the role, put them on your CV, on your resume. And then the other thing is, what's relevant in terms of your skills and experience? So I can make, these are key, because I'm going to be doing a match to say I'm recruiting a technical advisor, and then you've not done anything in the technical space, and then I need someone with 10 years experience. Because you have worked in an industry does not necessarily mean you can work in the technical space. However, if you feel you want to give this job, you want to go give it a go, and then you want to put in your application for the job, what are the things you should do? Look at the experiences you've had that relates to it. Especially, so this is speaking to people who currently work in an organization. Let's say you have an opportunity where the organization is going through a restructuring, or some jobs have been put in the open space, and then you haven't necessarily worked in that particular space, but you've had opportunities to collaborate with people from those other departments, and you've had opportunities to work on projects where those and the achievements the contributions you made to that project, you can actually highlight. And imagine on a CV like that, you put as part of your referees the director that you directly worked with. Those are things, that's what I mean about being intentional, and also building that profile. So for example, I work in an organization as a human resources professional, and I see that I want to go into health and safety, and I know I can easily switch. What are the things I do? I need to be intentional, check out what is it that they do. What sort of projects can I volunteer for as a human resources person on that project? Can I raise my hand? Because it's not something that's just, okay, when I'm ready to move, now I'm ready. Something you need to be intentional and build over time. And like I said at the beginning, you cannot put on your profile what you don't have. You cannot put on your CV what you don't have. So whether you're someone who's looking in from outside, or you're someone who's looking up from inside the organization, there's a profile building you have to go through. It's what you have built that you can reflect on your resume. And then what else do recruiters want to see? They want to see a touch of something personal. We want to see that there's something different. And I'm not necessarily saying married, or you will not see on even my resume, you won't see it anywhere that I say I'm married with kids or anything. That's not relevant if I'm not asked. And depending on in some environments, that's going to be out of place to ask that. And so, but what's personal? What else do I do? Outside, the formal career. What sort of activities am I engaged in? Do I do charity? Do I facilitate sessions? While in school? So for example, if you're an entry level or you're a new grad, while in school, was I part of any club? Did I hold any role? These are things that can help you just, give you a step ahead, compared to other candidates. Because many times you never know the strength or the quality of the people that you are up against. And this is very relevant for those who are in the beginning of their careers. And I want to quickly say, even for everybody. So you work in an organization, just like I talked about projects, the projects that will not count towards your performance rating. And so many times, and I'm going to say this as an HR professional, I hear many employees say all the time, this is above my pay grade, this is above my pay grade. It is the things above your pay grade that prepare you for that level that is above your current pay grade. So there are times where there are going to be jobs that won't be advertised, even within organizations. And so that's when we now start hearing, there's politics, there's favoritism, there's godfatherism. The truth is there will always be mentors and there will always be sponsors. I'm not going to digress into what we're not talking about, but I'm just going to say this: be intentional about building that profile. And then on your resume, we want to see something personal that goes beyond your relevant skills and experience that I can match to the job. Just something that shows that you're human, and something that shows that side of you that we can connect with. And also, still on the winning resume, I thought to put a few points that we look at. So in terms of bullet points, the first thing here is that your resume should be clear and concise. I shouldn't be looking for your experience on your resume, you know. So let me give an example of clear and concise. If you want to do a chronological resume, I want to start with, so depending, typically you're advised to start with your current job, you know, what your current job is, the things you're currently doing, and then go that way. So you would either do it chronologically or you do it by function. So when I say by function is, if you've done different parts of your, you know, if you've hired different roles and you now want to group your roles according to the similarities in those roles, fine. But you know, the typical thing, the most common sort of resumes you find are the ones that go through, you know. So for example, me, for example, I'm currently in the energy space, but before then I was with FMCG, and then before then professional services. And so that's how you will find, that's what you will see on my resume. And so is it clear? Can I easily look at your resume and say, these are the places you've worked, and these are the key things that you have done? Another thing on your resume is that it shows that you are credible. It shows your competence. And so I can't even see I can see this. And it shows that you have the relevant experience for that role. So beyond being clear, neat, clear, concise, straight to the point, it also shows credibility. I can tell you this, an experienced recruiter can easily pick from your resume some things that don't tally. And so where there's inconsistency in your resume, already that I have a concern with your credibility. And so and why this is important, and really I'm going to stress the importance of this, because sometimes it might just be an error on the part of the applicants. But the truth is there's so many people out there, and I have so limited time. So, you know, my time is so, you know, just very limited time to go through the tons and tons of CVs. So even when it's automated, and then, you know, I have a selection of 10 profiles, I still need to, you know, go through the profile as a recruiter and then review. And I'm checking if where there are inconsistencies, then there's a concern. And maybe I should just take this. There's some organizations that will bring you in. You know, I talked about having to bring in some things beyond resumes. And so when I talk credibility, there are organizations that beyond the interviews, you know, you also go through psychometric assessments. And for many of the psychometric assessments, there's always, I'm certified to use the SHL OPQ. There's always a test of your consistency in answering the question. So as much as you want to appear good, the same question will be asked in 10 different ways that you're not aware of. And so when your consistency is around 5 and below, it's already a no-no. It tells us that you have tried to, you know, just to doctor your answers. And so we can tell from your profile. So even things around the date of school, when you went, these are things that we take our time to check. Because if we have our criteria, we want to be sure that even as human resources professionals, we are giving the organization what the organization needs to meet its strategy. And so the other thing on your CV is your CV should tell that you're competent. And so beyond just putting your CV together, again, I'm going to repeat, I'm stressing a lot about building your profile. But wherever you are now, you know, in your career journey or the space you are in your career now, it's important to be deliberate about building the right competence that you require for that future that you dream of. And so even beyond putting together that profile now, what competence do you have? Many people put on their profiles. I just shared with you, you know, might not putting together some things that I know I have, that if you hear that this lady has this experience, or she has these certifications, or she has these academic qualifications, you want to listen. You know, you'd have heard the profile, you want to listen. It's okay, maybe she's got something to say. Even if you are someone who's, you know, you need to listen to me, excuse me, to be convinced. By the time you hear those things, and then if I don't see those things, how can I tell you if you're competent? Because at the time I'm seeing your resume, I haven't seen you. So without being seen, I see your resume, and then is it relevant? I'm not going to go too much into this because I already addressed the bit on relevance before when I talked about showcasing the part of your CV that aligns the most with the role, and just putting a lot more there, but not discarding the others, but let it be something I can easily find, and then let it be something that you can clearly showcase. And the other bit is that it reflects authenticity. You know, you say this is who you are. You know, you say this, I'm saying I'm this, I'm that, and then I cannot see that flow through. And some of the ways that your authenticity shows is in the achievements you show on your profile. And so it's not enough for you to say what your experiences are, you need to go the extra mile to say the achievements you have had. And when I say achievement, I don't mean you should stretch the truth. There are things I have seen on profiles that I know that some individuals go a long way to stretch the truth, and maybe I'll go there. And I think this is very key. I just had to really had to add this. It's your resume should be error-free. I don't think there's anything that upsets recruiters as much as a resume that's prone, full of errors. And you're wondering, is this person really taking this role serious? And so maybe the other bit here is that it meets the standard. When I say meets the standards, what are the requirements? Somebody says, an organization says, submit a 2-page resume. And then you're submitting, you submit a 5-page resume because you want to put everything together. Most likely, you're not even going to be considered. I'm just giving that example. And so this is what I said about credibility. And then I also talked about your competence next to your character. Your competence is what also gets your foot into the door. So in terms of your cover letter, I thought it was good to also say this, because many times there's something that when you send an email, so for example, you're an experienced hire within your organization or outside the organization, if it's not a tool that is being used, you send an email and then you put what I want to see, what in your email, in your statement, I want to see 3 things, and they're answering 3 whys. The first thing is who you are. Why do you think you're a fit? So what do you have? You already know the organization, you already profiled the job. So what exactly is it that you have? Who are you? How do you fit into that role? And then why did you apply? So why am I applying? I'm not just going to apply because, there's been a role, so for example, let me give you an example of an application. So I'm an experienced hire, there's a role internally, I put in for it. I'm going to be telling them, these are the experiences I've had, even before joining this organization. These are the experiences I've had, just in bullet points, and just the themes of your experience. Say, this is why I think I'm a fit, and this is why I applied, because I see myself as someone who can grow. This is my next step in my career journey, why I applied. And then why should it be me? This is what I bring, and this is how I'm going to, meet the requirements of that job. So in terms of your who, your what, your how. So as short as your cover letter should be, make sure they address these things. Why are you the fit? As who are you? Why are you? Why did you apply? What you intend to achieve with that application? And then why should you be hired? How you're going to, go about doing that job, or what you bring to the table. Those are key things. As short as your cover letter is, or your profile statement, these key things your recruiter want to see on them. And I'm going to quickly say this. So I have about 2 more slides. I'll rush through them. Chineye, please just give me a few minutes. I'll rush through the slides. I think this is something that is important. So I'll just really quickly drop them. The unseen resume. I already said a lot about credibility. And then the other bits I'll talk about is your network. There are lots of jobs that are not advertised. And then when jobs are advertised, you can't be everywhere. So when I tell people, I ask people, who do you have in your network? What are the kind of people that you have in your association? You can't overflog this. You really cannot overflog it. And, without saying so much, giving so many personal examples, I can give you loads and loads of examples. One of the reasons why I passed the KPMG test at the time was because I met somebody, those days of cyber cafe, for those of you in Nigeria. I'd gone into the cyber cafe back then, and I went to, it wasn't days where you have internet everywhere. I'd gone into to go research. I needed to go research, the organization. So I was researching, and a guy was beside me. I'd seen, my screen, and was like, oh, you're researching KPMG, do you have the test? I looked at him, now as a young girl, I was like, I was giving him attitude, and he said, oh, I just wrote their test last week. The lady who was giving attitude, my countenance changed, and the things he helped me, put me through, helped me in my test. I just give that example, but really, you see yourself as somebody growing in the organization. What's your network? Who are the people you know? And then the other bit is, what's your profile on social media? Recruiters will always, especially when you're at that point where you are being singled down, these are your resumes that they're not seeing, but everything you have about you on social media, recruiters check sometimes. Some cases they'll say, oh, it's not supposed to be, depending on the client, depending on the society, depending on the rules that govern the society. But the things that people check, and you want to say, is this person going to be the right ambassador for me? And then on the final note, a few things that I thought would be relevant to share for your CVs. Please, let me start with the no-nos. Template CVs are a no-no. So yes, you can pick up a template CV, but adjust to what you have. So I've seen somebody, you see people who are applying for a particular role, you know, they say they're in this particular role, they've worked in this bank, and then in the middle of that line, you're seeing another bank that wouldn't feature in the experience that they say they have. Don't skip the instructions. So if there's a rule or an instruction to say, let's see this, or let it be 2 pages, let it be, and then don't use absolutes. I'm perfect for the job, best in class skills, excellent this. These are things that, and don't overstretch the truth. Maybe just a few things. I already talked about the grammar. I already talked about your CV being current and complete. And the key thing is the first impressions are always deal breakers. I have a final slide here. I'll take the questions now. And if there's time, I'll come here. And the final slide is really just a bit of advice. And so, Chineye, thanks. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was an insightful session.
I know it was a bit of a rush, but
so many nuggets actually. Yeah. And just to portray the points that you made on networks, how I got to know about KPMG recruitment at the time I joined was through someone on my network. So it's really important that we expand our network. Yes. I have a couple of questions for you here, but before we go into that, I'd like you to talk to us about your nonprofit platform, Inspired for Impact. Please tell us about it.
Oh, okay, thank you. So sometime in 2018, I was inspired to set up a platform for especially young women, but over time we've expanded and we have programs that different persons can be a part of. We currently hold quarterly conversations. We have a lot of things that we do, but the idea around Inspired for Impact is to help career and business professionals grow in the sphere of influence. So it's just to say that whatever you are, wherever you are, it's just really, I would say it's patterned after Robin Sharma's book, The Leader Who Has No Title. So no matter where you are in your career journey, you can make an impact. And so we tell people, what I do with that platform is we have a lot of guests come to take us on different aspects of our careers and our profession, and we've expanded to also include business persons, that whatever they are, so beyond them receiving, they also have the responsibility to give back. And so part of what we do is every other month there's a book reading, and then we also have the Living Inspired series, which is where we have guests come speak on different topics. Then we have the career coaching conversations, which I handle personally every 3 months. And then we also have an annual program, the Inspired for Impact, which happens every November. We try to keep it light because I'm aware that everybody also have, they have the families, they have the careers, and they have different things that they're into. But the idea is to have something positive. So every last Sunday of the month, we have our meetings at 8 p.m. Nigerian time, every last Sunday of the month, just an hour where we share, with the speakers come talk to us on different topics. And then we also have assignments, projects that we give our team members to work on. So that's the bit. There's the website you can check later.
Amazing. I was going to come to that. So are you taking volunteers at the moment? If yes, how does one sign up if the person wants to be a volunteer?
Okay, so we take volunteers for our annual program, so which is coming up in November. Well, so we started that last year. It was a milestone birthday for me, so that's when we started the annual program, and then it's going to be an annual thing. And we did have quite a number of volunteers that helped put that program together. So what I can do, I believe there'll be someone on this call who can drop a link to that. So Victoria Gilore, if you're on the call, or Toby, if you're on the call, Tokwe, if you're on the call, please drop the link for the program, the November events that we had last year, Inspired for Impact. You can drop on the chat so that people can see that. And then you can also send us an email at Inspired for Impact 2018 at gmail.com. Inspired for Impact 2018. So Inspired for Impact is inspired for with the number for Impact 2018 at gmail.com. That's where you can send an email to.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so I'll just read through the questions that we have here. I have a question from Emmanuel. He's asking, how do you tailor your resume for a role that you are certified for, but you do not meet the required years of experience?
Okay, so there are a number of things that I'm almost like you've already answered the question. Okay, so how you tailor search is this. So one clear thing is the difference obviously will not be too much. So if it's a 10-year experience and you have a 5, your chances are slim. But if it's a 10-year experience and you have an 8, what you do is expand on the certifications that you have. Like you said, you're certified for, but beyond your certification, you might not have 10 years, but in your 8 years, what's the quality of related experience that you've done? And so the two things I would say is highlight those certification, but for someone like that, it's going to go beyond your certification to include the quality of your experience that is related. And so beyond just stating, I have done this, what are your achievements on that role? What are the contributions you've made to projects? And this is what I kept saying about building your profile such that when the opportunities come, and I tell you, we've had situations where people got roles with years of experience lower than was required because we thought, one, two things, they had the relevant experience, they didn't have the number of years, but they also brought on something in addition. So the other things that we've seen you do, or the other things on your resume, if it's a new role, if you're not in the organization, that you put there, and I'm thinking, okay, if this person is able to do this, it's an add-on for us. And so you can get the job. But what's important is, do you have something relevant to that role at all? And then if the gap is not too wide, that's another thing. But if it's really too wide, because please, let me quickly say this. When we put years of experience for roles, it's not just about that job. It's also about what are the expectations. So if you say 10 years, likely the person is going to be a team leader. So there are other things, you're going to be managing a team, you're going to be handling projects, so things that will go beyond that role, the specifics of the technicality of the role. And so if you have 5 years, we might think that you haven't grown enough to handle such a role. Yes, I think that answers it.
Can one add volunteer experience, especially if they are relevant to the role being advertised?
Very, 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 very good. Yes, you can. And I always tell people that rather than sit at home, go volunteer. Nobody's going to in fact, really, I put it as volunteer. It counts. I'm going to check that because it means you were learning. And even if it's, and let me say this, it doesn't even only have to be in the area that you want to build your career in. So as much as possible, look for volunteering work in those areas. But if you can't get, that's where you are. But be mindful that this is not where you want to remain, because if you're not mindful, you might end up spending 5 years. By the time you want to return, it's almost too late. Because by the time your age has caught up with you, you don't have the relevant experience in that area. And so those are things to be mindful of. But rather than wait, it's important that you can just start. You can start where you are. But volunteering is always, always very relevant.
Thank you, Victoria. I have another question here. People usually say your resume should not be more than 1 or 2 pages. Is this really a rule, or should we be flexible? I think you spoke about this when you talked about the instructions, but let's assume that there was no instruction in this instance. There was nothing saying give us a 1-page or 2-page resume. What should the candidate do?
So I'd say it depends. It depends essentially on the level you are in your career. So if I'm going to be recruiting a director level, I wouldn't be expecting a 1-page. Even a 2 would be quite constraining for a director level professional. So typically we tell people between 2 to 3, but I can get a director role and you have to 5, because there are things that you need to put in there that you have done this. But on average, we say 2 to 3. So if you can do 2, depending. So really, there's no one size fits all. But to play safe, 2, 3 at the maximum, depending on where you are. But if you are in the early stage of your career, a 2-page CV should be fine. And then if it's a 1-page, I actually have a 1-page CV slide at the end of this. And the reason is because you could have a request for a 1-page profile. And so I'm going to show you what that should look like. So in that situation, you know what you want to put. Everything will still go into that 1-page. Yeah.
It's amazing that you talked about that, because you actually have a question asking
really?
if it's an example of, so maybe you would share that as part of when you're rounding up.
Closing, yes.
I'll just take the other questions. This is from an anonymous attendee. It says, how important is a cover letter? There is a myth that recruiters don't use it, but rather go straight to your experience. Victoria, what are your thoughts?
No, so please take that question again.
How important is a cover letter? There is a myth that recruiters don't use it, that they don't use the cover letter. They just go straight to your experience.
I don't think so, because I recruit. Do you understand? So it depends. Again, I would say it depends. I like to say that there's no one size fits all. So the way I'll answer this is this. My answer will be, will it hurt if I put it? So if the recruiter doesn't use it, is there going to be a deduction in my score, assuming there's a score, for each part of my resume? Is there going to be a deduction? I doubt that. Or can it add to that score? Let's assume there's a score, because many times you could have somebody who has like a guide to what they're looking out for, because I typically we want to check, what will I see in this resume? So again, it really depends, on what stage you are in. And so many times, so even if you're sending an email, for example, your cover letter can be in the body of your email. And I can tell you this, many multinationals will always ask for your cover letter. Your cover letter can just be your profile statement. Doesn't really necessarily, when I say cover letter, it's not one long, it's just something punching that says, this is who I am. I talked to you about the who, the what, and the why. That's just what it covers in just very few lines. But I would say that even if they don't go through it, if you have an outstanding intro, that already, it makes the recruiter interested. So I'll say err on the side of caution. Don't do too much, but put it there. That would be my advice. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have another question from another anonymous attendee. I joined the company 2 months ago, but have not been paid. If I have the opportunity to be interviewed for another job, and I am being asked why I want to leave my current place of employment within the space of 2 months, how do I answer this question?
So we've gone into interviews now. So I'd say 2 ways you can actually be. So the risk is this. The risk, you can be truthful without disclosing some things, and I'm being careful here. You can be truthful about why you want to leave and say that there are things there that you've discovered that might not necessarily align with who you are or what you really want to do, because you need to also be mindful. If you say things around values, that might be indicting. You understand what I'm saying? And then also because you don't understand what the circumstance might be at that point in time. So while we always say you shouldn't owe your employees, I've never been in a situation where I was owed. I have never been in that situation. However, I would say that some things are not the way they seem. And so in answering a question like that, I'd rather put it on things around why I'm leaving will be why I'm applying for this particular role. So I'll take it to the organization, the new organization. This is why I think you're going to offer me something, maybe a better profile. And this is it. The answer to this question will come from your profile in the organization. Yeah. Especially if you don't want to go there and say, I've not been paid. Because let me tell you what, as much as that is the truth, a recruiter is going to also be careful, when you make those blunt, absolute statements in interview sessions, to say that if you are able to say that while you are being truthful, you also need to be diplomatic. You also need to apply emotional intelligence, because so the only way you can really absolutely and truthfully answer that question is to look at what is it in the role. So when they say why, it doesn't necessarily mean they're asking about that organization. Why do you want to leave? I can answer the why to say, okay, I think this organization offers me a better platform. And so if you know where you're going to in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years, you have more things to answer into that question. So many times we struggle with such answers because we're not looking beyond now. We don't have a plan beyond now. But if you have those, you're able to bring your answers. And I can tell you this, because beyond being a recruiter, you've seen my profile. I've also worked in different places. I also am aware of how to answer questions that would also intrigue the interviewer, that will now also stir the conversation. Although if you meet an experienced interviewer, you'll be in for it.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Victoria. So I think that's all. I just got the question from Uluwadanmi Lola. Are there key things to note for recruitment for international roles?
Okay, so I would say that it's pretty much the same thing that I shared. I talked a lot around So depending on it, so if you, let's go resume now. So the things that you will put in a Nigerian environment that are not relevant, you know, for somewhere else. And there are things that would be relevant, you know, in some other environment will not be relevant here. But so you need to, the thing is, I'm not going to sit here and say for the resume, the things that you need to research and say for this particular country, for this organization, these are the key things, these are the typical things they want to see. So I'll give an example. If I'm going to be going for an international job and I want to work elsewhere, I'll give you an example. Even when I did my GPHR, so give you a personal example, I was deliberate about doing I could have done the PHRI or some other stuff, but I knew that the GPHR gave me a global platform because it's the global professional in human resources. So it could tell that I can work anywhere, and the exams were global based. You know, there were questions around starting organizations in different climes and being able to manage across borders. So you've got to be deliberate. So for example, now I'm an accountant, I'm going to be applying for an international role. Do I have the CPA, depending on where it is I'm working? Do I have the ACCA compared with the ICANN? You know, do I have the sort of experience that is required in those places? So it's first thing is I talked about academic qualification. So for those international roles, your academic qualifications, you want to see how do they align, even your degree that you have. You know, you need to check, and these things are online. Check if your school is accredited and is recognized. These are things that you check. And then your sort of experience. I would say that for many multinational roles, the things about a second language. So your French, your German, these things are basic for many international roles. They're just the minimum and the basic things that you need to consider. And that's even going beyond the experience. And maybe a final thing to add here is this, especially if you currently work in a place where you have an opportunity to be working in a multinational, or you're working with, so for example, I work in Nigeria, but I work with a multinational. So if I have opportunities to work on projects where even though I sit in Nigeria and I have team members from the US, from the UK, we're working together, that alone is a big deal on my profile. So another thing is you're doing your MBA. So for example, now you're taking your MBA and there's an additional course which is not going to impact your CV. And again, I'm saying it because it's something I went through, you know, and it was on managing multicultural teams. It was a course. By the time I saw it, it was like, what is this addition? I went through that course and I was like, wow, great. So these are things that you will see on someone's resume. And I want to say that it might just be a course, but it's something already added to the knowledge that you have. You know, so those are basic things that recruiters would see. And many times, if you have those basic things, they're also available, maybe ready to help you to acquire the other things that you would need.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Before I give it back to you for your closing remarks and comments, I'd just like to say for everyone that has asked a question about a particular slide that you missed, the recording for this masterclass will be available on the BNET Learning's YouTube page. So if you haven't signed up, please subscribe to our YouTube page and turn on your notifications so that you will be notified when we upload the recording of this masterclass. It's back to you, Victoria, for your final remarks, and please share the resume templates that you have.
Okay, great. That's the next thing. So my final remarks, I thought what I said here, you can still see my screen, right?
Yes, please.
Great. Okay, so just a bit of advice and maybe just summarizing the things that I've shared so far. The first thing here is that skills will always win. Skills will always win. So your chosen profession, learn to develop mastery in it. You know, it will continue to create opportunities for you, you know, and you might not have what it is now that you desire, but continue to build that profile, because those skills will, when the time comes, you are able to bring out, you know, come up and say, this is what I have. And let me say this, sometimes the skills is not about only when you are asked and you're able to say, this is what I have. It will show on the job. You know, you show on the job, and then they're able to say that you're ready for the next level. And then there have also been opportunities where you work with somebody and then somebody leaves and recommends you for somewhere else. And so I can say this because of my breadth of experience. I've seen these things happen. And the other bit around skills is for you to continue, just be ready at every point in time. So when I say prepare, I talk everything I've talked about, building your profile, you know, being ready for interviews before you go, ensuring that every time you're putting forward your best foot, everything about you, your resume, you're putting it together, you're checking that there are no errors. So just everything that by the time you see me, you know, you see a Victoria, you're like, okay, this is a complete package, you know, this is the kind of person, because let me tell you what, a recruiter recruiting, especially when the recruiter is, whether the recruiter is contracted or part of the organization, the recruiter always have as the back of their minds, is this person an ambassador? Can I put this person as the face of my organization, no matter what role that you're in? The other bit I talked about is the character. And a lot of things now, everything we do is on social media. Whether you're posting it, somebody else is posting, whether you're not posting it, a lot of things there. And recruiters check. You know, there's a site that there was a time it was so common, we Googled you, a lot of things. Even if I don't want to, I just put your name. If you can try put Victoria Ibar, you see a lot of things, you know, and the same way you search, that's the same way recruiters check. Because there are things not on your CV. That's the unseen resume I talked about. And then the key thing here, just like I talked about Shama's book on the leader who had no title. You're preparing your resume for a dream job time, right? And then where you are, start making that impact. I talked about relationship, make every moment count. I just thought that just to put some advice there. And maybe my last thing is for you to make the best use of where you are now. It might not be what you really want, but you're on the journey to that. And this is the one-page slide. So what I have on this slide is not a regular resume. So it's somebody saying, come present to us on this topic. Let me show you what I'm doing here now. So it's a profile, not necessarily a full resume. And I'm saying that why should it be Victoria? You know, so I'm going to say these are the areas of HR. So the first thing you're seeing there is my qualifications. I have not even put the learnings. So I've not even put some of my learnings here, but you see my picture and you're seeing that, oh, she has MBA, she has this, she has that. Okay, you already say, okay, maybe she has some things up there. You know, maybe she has some things. But then the other thing you're saying, what has she even done? Human resources is clearly stated there. What qualifications does she have? Yes. And then you can see my roles, you know, at the right-hand side. And then because this is a facilitation profile, somebody is saying, we want you to come and facilitate our strategy. I want to tell you the companies I've spoken to before. I want to tell you the platforms I've spoken to. And then I'm deliberate about the brands. Obviously, there are more than this. I'm deliberate about, okay, so if it's a bank, I want the GT to be obvious there that I've spoken to, you know, I've had an opportunity to speak to GT. Professional services, you know, I want it to be obvious. And then if it's non-profit, I want Leap Africa to be just giving you that brief to say, I'm being intentional. So if it was for a role or a job, obviously, I'm not going to be putting my facilitation experiences, except it's going to be an OD, that's an organizational development and a learning role, then I want to put all this there. So it depends on what the use is. So in one page, you are able to see everything about Victoria without me putting too much details. So this is just an example. Thank you very much. I'll just leave this slide and just allow you to read through the question. So after everything you have heard, the question for you really is, you can only score a goal if you are still in the game. And my question is really, are you? I talked about your profile. I talked about being prepared for the future. I talked about building and being deliberate, you know, thinking sales. And then the last question really, again, I started with a question, I'm ending with a question. Are you still in the game? Are you even playing, or are you getting ready if you're not in the game? And the good thing is, even if you're not in the game, you can start prepping to get into the game. Chineye, thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria. Wow, thank you so much. I'm sure all of our participants are saying thank you to you as well. Thank you for spending time with us this evening, this morning, this afternoon, depending on where our participants are joining us from. And thank you for answering the questions that we have. We appreciate you. And thank you also to our participants, everyone that has stayed on up till this moment. We're going to shut down this event in a few minutes, but before we do that, I'd like to talk to us about upcoming bootcamps at BNET Learning. Remember, I said that at BNET Learning, we don't just train, we coach and we mentor. We have a bootcamp for our CBDA, Certified Business Data Analyst course, that will start on the 3rd of July. That's next weekend, actually. That's when our CBDA bootcamp will start. And also our CBA bootcamp, that's for Certified Business Analyst, will start on the 1st of August and run till September 4th. It will start on the 1st of August and run till September 4th. If you'd like to enroll for any of these bootcamps, please send an email to the email address info@bnetlearning.com. info@bnetlearning.com. If you'd like to enroll for any of these bootcamps, please send an email to info bnetlearning.com. It's been added on, it's been pasted in the chat room. So yeah, you can copy that out, info@bnetlearning.com, and we'll get back to you with all of the information that you need to sign up for these boot camps. And also to reiterate that the recording for this masterclass will be available on the YouTube channel. The link for that was also shared on the chat room. So please click and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you'd know once the recording has been posted. Yes. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms as well. The link for our Instagram platform has also been posted on the chat room. So please click and follow us so that you can get all of the relevant information about our future master classes, and any other information that you need about BNET learning. Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you so much, everyone that has joined this masterclass. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you at future events. Bye-bye.